Yesterday in the National Football League was crazy. A lot of things happened that can't say that I was that surprised by, and some things happened that knocked my socks off. And there were a couple of teams that I looked at yesterday in particular, and I said, oh, you were serious. Didn't know. Who else could it be but me, your name, Louie Tee? Welcome to the 118th installment of the Louie Tee Network Podcast. I, of course, am your set man, Louie Tee. Thank you for joining me. A lot to get to today. Don't have a lot of time. This is going to be a jam-packed day for me, and I kind of laid this out for you guys yesterday. But programming here on the Louie Tee Network is going to be insane today. We've got the podcast here. Right after this, you're going to see me again at 3:45 for the pregame of Washington, Pittsburgh. So we're going to do a live pregame show there. Then after that game is done, we'll be back for the overtime series, breaking that game down, talking about what happened, what things happened right to lead to the Washington victory, or what went wrong to lead to their 8th loss of the season. And then after that, we've got Monday Night Football, Bills at 49ers, which is in Arizona. And so we'll be talking about that game at its conclusion as well. So jam-packed day here on the Louie Tee Network. So we're going to get right to the proceedings this evening. Let me drop a gem on your melon. Open your mind, let your conscience be free. You're now rolling with your man, Louie T double E. Let me open you up. Get you thinking a little bit. So, Gregg Williams is my guy. Anybody that knows me knows I'm a Gregg Williams guy. Always have been, always will be. I stood by him during Bountygate. I stood by him when he started talking about how he could get a job in the NFL as a head coach if he wanted one, this, that, and the third. I'm like, hey, Gregg's always been an arrogant son of a bitch. He always has been, always will be. I think the call on Sunday is proof of that. After the game, he's talking about, hey, it's a very unique call. You don't see it very often in the league. Duh, Gregg. That's why you don't see it very often, because no one wants to be fired the next day for doing something stupid like costing their team an opportunity to win a game that they should have won. That being said, Gregg Williams was fired today as Jets defensive coordinator. I told you I was going to elect to blame Adam Gase, because if he were fired, they wouldn't be 0-12. They would have won a game by now. But for some reason, the Jets organization is smitten with Adam Gase. And for whatever reason, don't want to fire him and get the process started early of trying to find a replacement for him. The Jets are a dumpster fire. Everyone knows it. And look, whatever they decide to do, it's on them. I just want to focus on Gregg Williams here for a second, because he's going to get another job as a defensive coordinator. I know right now he's got this, scarlet letter on his chest because you've got Bountygate, that's strike one. And now, you could argue there are a number of different things out there that could be strike two. And then this could be strike three. But when you have the track record that Gregg Williams has in this league, you're going to find work. Someone's going to be willing to hire Gregg Williams as their defensive coordinator. He's good at what he does. And it's proof that this Jets defense isn't terrible. And, they didn't have a great game against the Raiders, but they played well enough to win. And I've said that about this Jets football team numerous times this season. Hey, they're not a good football team, but the defense gave them opportunities to win the game, and the offense simply just didn't do enough. And so, I look, Gregg Williams, that was a stupid call. And somebody had to fall on the sword for that. And obviously, he was the guy pulling the trigger there. And, everyone keeps saying it was an 8-man blitz. It was a 7-man pressure. I watched the entire game. I went back, watched that whole sequence again. It's a 7-man pressure. The linebacker came late because the running back stayed in to block. So, in essence, it turned into an 8-man pressure, but that was a late green dog. It was really a 7-man pressure. And, look, it didn't hit home. When you blitz that many guys, you're expecting to hit home and get to Derek Carr. I've already explained to you yesterday on Around the NFL in 30 Minutes what I thought he was trying to do. Gregg was trying to get pressure, heat up Derek Carr, not allow him to throw an Hail Mary down the field. They had already thrown one Hail Mary, or not, it wasn't a Hail Mary, but I tell you what, the play before, and this is a sign of a defense that just doesn't get it. The play before, Nelson Agholor got behind their entire defense. And if Derek Carr could hit him, and that was the second time Derek Carr had missed Nelson Agholor in the game. Agholor had a touchdown, I think 2 possessions before that. If Carr puts it out in front of him, he underthrows it and allows Marcus May to knock the football away. And then on that play that I'm referencing, the one before the touchdown to Henry Ruggs, you got Nelson Agholor behind 3 Jet defenders in the back of the end zone for a touchdown, and Carr just overshoots him. So they were dying to give something up, and everything has context to it. And I think in Gregg's mind, look, I just dialed up a play where nobody's supposed to get behind us, and yet Nelson Agholor just got behind us. So you know what I'm going to do this time? To hell with that. I'm throwing caution to the wind. I'm coming after Derek Carr because I don't want him sitting back there having an opportunity to launch it deep, because we've just shown that we don't have enough discipline to stay deeper than the deepest, and we're letting guys behind us consistently throughout the day. Let's just go get Derek Carr and we won't have to worry about him throwing it deep. Well, it backfired. They didn't hit home. He was able to step up in the pocket, throw it on the move to Henry Ruggs on the money for the touchdown. And as a result, the Jets lose the game 31-28. And another byproduct of that is Gregg Williams gets the pink slip today. And look, at the end of the day, you know, I've read a whole bunch of things from different people and fans and analysts. Something had to be done in order to ensure the integrity of the game. I.e., if you want people to think that you're not trying to tank, you have to fire. Someone has to fall on the sword here. That guy's Gregg Williams. The Jets want to win. Nobody wants to go 0-16. Now, I'm not saying that the Jets don't want Trevor Lawrence, because they do, okay? And it would have made things a lot more simpler had Jacksonville just won it yesterday against the Minnesota Vikings, but they didn't. And so, you know, you know what would be crazy is if, and you know, I'm not a conspiracy theorist when it comes to things like this, but it'd be amazing if they saw that Jacksonville wasn't going to win the game, or at least that game was going to overtime, and they said, we can't afford to allow Jacksonville to lose, and we win, and all of a sudden we're not in a position to get Trevor Lawrence. Now, I don't know what would happen if the Jets win, and if that changes whether they're first or second with Jacksonville. I don't know what the tiebreaker situation, but I would assume that strength of opponents, because I don't think Jacksonville and the Jets played each other this year. So, as a matter of fact, I know they didn't play each other because Jacksonville's only win came in week 1 versus Indianapolis. So, in essence, it would come down to strength of schedule. I still think Jacksonville wins because, that would make Jacksonville's win against Indianapolis put them in the number 1 seed, I would think, because the win versus the Raiders would put them a game behind Indianapolis. Well, the Raiders would have been 6-6 at that point had they won. So, in essence, they would have been viewed as the team that needed the pick. No, I think it's the other way around. Because they lost to a team that's worse, that would make them more needy of the pick. So I think they would, in fact, stay at number 1. I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, long story short, it would be crazy if they realized Jacksonville was going to lose that game and say, you know what, we can't afford to piss this. We've worked too hard to get in a position to get Trevor Lawrence. We can't afford to win this game. But that's not what they did. No one wants to go 0-16. There's a stigma that is attached to going 0-16. No one wants to be a part of a unit, of a team, of an organization that goes 0-16. And so they want to win a game. If only one, they want to win a game. I don't know if they want to win any more than that, but they want to win one game. And they had a chance to do it on Sunday, and they blew it. And Gregg Williams, it cost him his job. And I you know what? As much as I love Gregg Williams, I can't be upset at that decision. I can't knock it because that was a boneheaded decision. I told you there's a time and a place to go with a zero blitz. That wasn't it. That wasn't the time for that. You know, I'm all about pressure. And I said this yesterday. But you know what would have been nice? A 5-man pressure. Hell, even a 6-man pressure with 2 deep safeties and man-to-man across the board. I would have been fine with that. But what you can't do in that situation is put your guys on an island one-on-one across the board and expect them to not give something up deep. And I get it. And when you see the route that the corner, Lamar Jackson, got beat on, you say, come on, bro. Like, you playing sticks? With 6 seconds left in the game, you playing sticks? Really? 13 seconds left? You worried about giving up sticks? They don't need a field goal. They need a touchdown. Just keep this guy in front of you, but he's a rookie. He's an undrafted rookie out of Nebraska. What do you expect him to do? Something stupid is what you should expect, which is why you don't put guys like that in a situation like that. And that's why, Gregg Williams had to go. So in any event, one of the more fascinating developments of yesterday was that Jets-Raiders finish. And we'll get into that game more when we talk about that game in particular as we go around the league. As a matter of fact, let's do that now. Let's go Slate Skatin. Put on your skates. We're going around the National Football League week number 13 right now. So week 13 in the National League provided us with some really fascinating finishes, some really crazy outcomes, and some games that are going to factor into this ever so intense playoff chase that we're starting to see really develop as things are starting to get tight. Now we're in week 13. The last two teams in the league had their bye week in Carolina and Tampa Bay. So after this, no more bye weeks, 16 game slates the rest of the way. Everything is on the line. And we were seeing teams clinch playoff berths like Kansas City doing that yesterday. The Saints did it yesterday as well. And so we're going to see a lot of teams start to clinch and things start to become a little bit more clear in these conferences in terms of the playoffs. But everything's really jumbled up and interesting right now. And let's start with the Saints and Falcons. 21-16, Saints get the win. They're now 10-2. After starting the season off 1-2, they've run off 9 straight victories, have the Saints. The last 3 of which have come with Drew Brees on IR with broken ribs. And I got to say, I was wrong about Taysom Hill's ability to throw the football. He's been really, really impressive. He was again in this game versus the Falcons, his second win against the Falcons in this 3-game stretch. And he got his first 2 passing touchdowns, as I mentioned yesterday in this football game. Something that I thought was really interesting watching this game is that the Saints are a team that, for whatever reason, and I know what it is. It's Sean Payton. This guy is amazing, but they just find ways to adapt and morph into whatever it is they need to be to get the win. And what's amazing is watching this whole situation with Drew Brees getting injured unfold, and then the decision to then go to Taysom Hill instead of Jameis Winston. I think that was a controversial decision in the moment. Like, wow, you're really going to go with Taysom Hill? You really think he can get it done? And, a lot of times we second guess these coaches, but we're not at practice. We don't see these guys doing the things that they do every single day. And Taysom Hill has gotten it done. Drew Brees is slated to come off of IR next week. Could be ready, potentially, for the Eagles game. That's going to be interesting. I don't think Drew Brees will be ready next week. I think they'll give him one more week. And with the turmoil going on in Philadelphia, that may weigh into their decision-making process to say, you know what? We can afford to allow Drew to sit for one more week. We think we can get by with Taysom again next week. This is the perfect stretch. I can say this. This was the perfect stretch of football for Taysom Hill to have to start. Had he had to go through some of the games they had earlier in the season, I don't know if he would have survived cleanly. But because this stretch of football was New Orleans or Atlanta, Denver without a quarterback, Atlanta again, and now Philadelphia, who stinks and are going through a quarterback crisis of their own, you're going to be able to probably do exactly what you did last year, which is get through this stretch of football undefeated with Drew Brees on the shelf. And he'll return, and it'll be like he was never gone, and because he'll pick right up where he left off, and they'll continue to win ball games. They stay atop the NFC conference with the 10-2 record with the win for the Falcons. Another spirited effort. Todd Gurley barely played in this game. He was active, had a few carries, but not much to speak of. You continue to see a team that's fighting, but they're going to, and I've heard from some Falcons fans that wanted to keep Raheem Morris. I've heard from others that, want to start anew. They're going to start anew. Raheem Morris had some opportunities here to win some ball games, and they haven't been able to get it done. And I think that's ultimately going to lead them in a different direction. Had they been sitting at 6-6 right now, which they very well could have been, because these 2 losses that they have could have been wins. 3 losses actually, with Raheem Morris as the coach. 2 coming against the Saints, 1 coming against the Detroit Lions. They could easily be 7-5 right now, honestly speaking, but they're not. They're 4-8, and it's going to lead to them looking for a new general manager and a new head coach. So Falcons fall to 4-8. Saints advance to 10-2 and stay atop the NFC conference, 1 game ahead of the Green Bay Packers. We'll talk about them a little bit later on. Lions, Bears, NFC North. Oh my! And look, I'm proud of myself because I predicted this one, and I told you the theory that I have is one that seems to be impenetrable at this point. When a team fires their head coach in season, the very next game is going to be a win. Now, obviously, circumstances will dictate if that's more likely or less likely. The best time to fire a coach is when the next game is actually a winnable game, because you want your players to believe, you want them to feel like change has made a difference. So you don't want to fire your head coach and the next week you're playing the best team in the league. Probably not the time to do that. But they saw an opportunity. Thanksgiving, long layoff after playing on a Thursday, so you'll have more time for the team to adjust to Darren Bevel being your interim head coach. He'll be able to kind of put a little bit of a stamp on the team. He's been there, so it's not like he's starting from scratch, but he'll be able to kind of implement some things that maybe he saw differently from the head coach. And usually it's after a bye week, or it's after a long layoff like this, and you get this kind of result. 34-30, Lions win this game. They had every opportunity to quit in this game, did the Lions. Every opportunity. They were down by 2 scores multiple times in this football game. They were down late 30-20. They could have given up at that point. They were down 23-13 in this game. They were down big at multiple turns and stops of this game, but they continued to fight. I mean, when you look at the scoreboard, you're down 10 with 6 minutes left. And you're starting a drive inside your own 20-yard line. It's easy for you to just fold up the 10 and say, maybe we'll get them next time. Matthew Stafford, look, I've said this a million times, and I promise there is a Matthew Stafford conversation coming on this podcast. I told you that's a conversation for the offseason, though. But I'll just say this. I would take Matthew Stafford on my team anytime. I know a lot of people out there think this guy's a loser. I think he's part of a loser organization, but he himself is not a loser. I think he proved it again in this game, willing his team back from behind. Now, obviously had some help from old Mitchell Trubisky getting stripped in the pocket by Okwara late in this ball game, and recovered by John Pennicini, and setting up the Adrian Peterson touchdown run for the go-ahead score. But Stafford was magnificent, 27 of 42 for 402 yards, 3 touchdowns, 1 INT. He was outstanding, brought this team back, gave them a shot, and they steal this one on the road. And what's ironic here is this was the Bears' best offensive performance in ages. They scored 30. Mitchell Trubisky actually was not bad in this football game. He was 26 of 34 for 267 and a touchdown. He did not turn it over until late with that fumble. He was actually really, really good. And they scored 30 points. Do you know how many games they would have won this season if they could have gotten this offensive output? Because this defense generally doesn't give up 34 points. But the defense is starting to wear down, and they're starting not to believe. And that's when you get performances like this. Big ups to the Lions for making me right, and big ups to the Lions for getting a win for the interim head coach, Darrell Bevel, as they get it done 34-30. Both teams are now 5-7, and what little fading playoff hopes the Bears had, they're dashed now with this loss. And don't get me wrong, it's crazy. They're just a game out of last place in the NFC playoff race. They're 1 game out of 7th. The 6-6 Minnesota Vikings are holding on to the 7 seed right now. So literally the Bears could win next week and have a bunch of things happen, and they could be right there. But they're dead. This team is dead. I can tell you this. that was a valiant effort by the Bears. But you got to find a way to win that game, and they didn't. Lions are now 5-7. Technically, neither one of those teams are dead in the NFC. I just don't see either one of those teams doing anything. Browns at the Titans. To me, this was the most impressive win of the day. I know the most shocking win of the day was the Giants over the Seahawks, but this to me was the most impressive win of the day by far and away. 2 8-3 teams coming into the game. You're expecting a barn burner. You're expecting a nip and tuck game down to the final moments. And in two teams that like to run the football, so you're expecting a shortened game, tough, physical, nasty, slobber knocker type of affair. And what we got was an all-out assault, all right, a physical assault of the Tennessee Titans in this game before they even knew what hit them. And they got beat up badly. I mean, they got absolutely sodomized in this game before they even knew what happened. It was 38-7 at halftime. I mean, it was crazy. I kept waiting for a pulse from the Titans. It never came. Not in the first half, at least. And it was amazing to see just how efficient the Browns were. And I want to talk about the Browns here for a second before we move on. I wanted to talk about this last night, and I said I'm going to save it for the podcast. Here's my take on the Browns. So, I wasn't a believer in the Browns going into this game, and I thought the Titans were going to confirm what I thought going into this game, that the Browns are a fraud. They're a mirage of a team that has had a schedule that has been conducive to them winning some games that they otherwise wouldn't have won had it been better competition. You know, and they got some home games against some teams that were struggling in some inclement weather, and they were able to take advantage, like Houston and Philadelphia. And I was like, I don't really buy what they're selling. But you know what happened in that stretch when they were able to win those games and compile this 8-3 mark? And I talk about this all the time. Even if a team isn't that good, they start believing that they're good. The more you win, the more confidence you gain. The more confidence you gain, the more you win. I told you it's a vicious, flavor delicious cycle. And you're seeing it in full motion with this Cleveland Browns team, because now they're starting to believe they're better than what they really are. And I love their run game. I've talked about it all season long with Chubb and Hunt. But I thought after the loss of Odell Beckham, this offense, passing-wise, wouldn't really be able to stretch the football field vertically. Teams would then come up, kind of force them to have to take shots down the field. They don't have anybody who can stretch the field, so who are you going to throw it down the field to? Well, I was wrong. And you know what I've found? And this may not be that, wild of a take. It may be. I don't think it is. I think a lot of people may feel this way. I haven't heard anybody say it. This offense is better without Odell Beckham Jr. And I know that may sound crazy. You're talking about one of the most dynamic receivers in the league. But hear me out. Baker Mayfield looks so much more comfortable and in command of a team full of ragtag receivers outside of Jarvis Landry. You got Rashard Higgins out here catching balls, and they're rolling out the red carpet for Rashard Higgins, and he's walking down the red carpet feeling good about himself after a touchdown. You got Donovan Peoples-Jones, the rookie receiver out of Michigan, out here balling, running double moves and running right by guys. Made the big catch for the touchdown versus the Bengals late in the game to win. He did it again in this game with a nasty double move. He's playing out of his gourd, is Donovan Peoples-Jones. And what you're finding is that Baker doesn't have to answer to anybody. He doesn't have to appease anybody. He's able to just go out and distribute the football wherever he sees fit. He doesn't have to. And remember, I used to always say, hey, with a guy like Odell Beckham, who's a fragile soul, you got to make sure you get him involved early and often so that he's engaged, so that he's not on the sidelines throwing a temper tantrum, so he's not on the sidelines having a fight with a field goal kicking post. Like, you have to get him involved early. And it doesn't matter, a jet sweep, a wide receiver screen, a hitch, a slant. You just got to give him the rock early so he's engaged. He doesn't have to worry about that anymore. He doesn't have to worry about if this guy's getting his fair share of targets or not. All he's got to do is find the open guy and distribute the football to whoever's the open receiver, whether it's the tight end, whether it's the fullback, whether it's the receiver. It doesn't matter. Hell, he's even catching passes, is Baker Mayfield. So I think this offense is a lot more comfortable now that you don't have to appease one guy. You can just go out and distribute the football. They look comfortable out there. Baker's having fun again. It's amazing how these things happen. But I said all of that to say this. This team is playing with an abundance of confidence. And I'm going to tell you right now, they're dangerous, are the Cleveland Browns, because they can run the football. They got Myles Garrett running after your quarterback. They're starting to play a level of defense. And again, the score doesn't really do this game justice. 41-35 doesn't do this game any justice because they took their foot completely off the gas pedal like they did earlier in the season against Dallas when they were up 31 in the fourth quarter and decided that they weren't going to play any more football until the Cowboys came roaring back and almost stole the game from them. They won this game in the first half when they could do no wrong. 6 possessions, 6 scores, 5 of which were touchdowns in the first half. They were unconscious in the first half, and the Titans had no answer. And so this Browns team, they're dangerous. Chubb, 80 yards. Let's look at their rushing total real quick, and then we'll move on. I don't really have much to say for the Titans because this is who the Titans are. We've seen this all season long. 118 yards rushing, not their best. Kareem Hunt really didn't do much. It was Chubb that really did a lot of the damage. But, Mayfield throwing the football, 25 of 33 for 334 and 4 touchdowns, no INTs. Unbelievable. Thought Baker Mayfield just looked really, and look at this distribution here. Rashard Higgins, 6 catches, 95 yards, a touchdown. Donovan Peoples-Jones, 2 catches, 92 yards, and a touchdown. Jarvis Landry, 8 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown. Like, that's the kind of distribution you're getting now. Not to mention Chubb, Hooper, Hunt, Mayfield, Njoku, Johnson, DeAnthony Johnson, or Dearness Johnson, excuse me. And they even threw it to an offensive lineman in Lamb. All right, for a touchdown. So there's just so much going on right now, and you don't have to worry about appeasing Odell Beckham. Like, the Browns, I'm telling you right now, man, they're playing with a ton of confidence. They're the scary team, and they're now 9-3. Don't look now. They're 9-3 for the Titans. They're 8-4. My man MJ said it best. They're capable of beating anyone, and they're capable of losing to anyone. That's just the Tennessee Titans. It is what it is. They're now 8-4, but they still lead the AFC South Division, but they're now tied with the Indianapolis Colts at 8-4. Miami Dolphins, Cincinnati Bengals. This game, it was marred by a couple of scuffles. The first one involved wide receiver Tyler Boyd, who had a 72-yard touchdown, the only touchdown of the game for the Bengals for that matter. And Xavier Howard, who both were ejected. Then the second one involved multiple players, benches cleared. All right, it got really heated. We saw the clip of Dolphins head coach Brian Flores on the field. He was pushed back by one of the Bengals safeties, Von Bell, telling him, "Hey, chill, we got it. Let us handle it." So it was an intense game, but the actual play on the field was pretty bad from both teams. But look, the Dolphins don't care how it looks. They just want to put it in the left-hand column. They do that 19-7. Tua, 26 of 39 for 296. Sounds really good. He's throwing some risky balls, man. He hasn't thrown an interception yet. I've watched every single game he's played in. He should have thrown at least 5 or 6 interceptions already. They dropped 2 in this game, but he's continuing to play mistake-free football, which is what they love. And he's giving them a chance to win. I'll tell you, and I said this yesterday, I'm going to double down on it. Mike Gesicki is turning into one of the better pass-catching tight ends in the league. He's showing the talent that we knew he had coming out of Penn State. He was exceptional in this game. Myles Gaskin, I disrespected him earlier in the season. I'm not here to apologize for that disrespect, but I am here to say that this guy does some really good things for this Dolphins football team. I still don't understand it, but he's been really good for the Dolphins, and his impact was felt in this game. 21 carries, 90 yards for Myles Gaskin, and I think he caught the football out of the backfield a couple of times. He also had 2 catches for 51 yards, so he's a guy that they really like to get the football to, and he usually does some good things for them. Over 130 yards of all-purpose offense for Myles Gaskins in this football game. I got a couple of super chats. I do want to take a look at these before I continue to move on. Kevin, the PRF, Thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. My man Kevin, the PRF, writes, I wasn't before, but I'm a believer now. The Jets are actively tanking, or at least Williams was to get out. The play before the winning play was just as bad, and the corners were biting on short routes. And that's what I mentioned. If you watch that game, and I was appalled at the defense on the play prior to the touchdown to Ruggs. Like, Nelson Aguilar is a full three steps behind the closest Jets defender, and it's not even close. And it's the same thing if Carr hits, Aguilar on that play. Williams probably isn't fired today, but you're like, what the hell, bro? Like, what are we doing right now? How does that happen? But, I sit here and I say that I watch my football team, Washington, have the same thing happen to them in a similar situation. Now, we weren't up, but it was a tie game at 27, and Quintez Cephas is 7 yards behind the defense. Like, what are you guys doing right now? How is that possible? So it's easy to blame the coach. I'm pretty sure the coach is like, hey, guys, don't let anybody behind you. And somebody has a brain fart out there playing sticks. Like, it's stupid. But it is what it is. I can't be mad at anyone that says the Jets are tanking. Like, that's the confirmation for them. The Jets are really tanking. That's a hard one to stomach. They had no. You know what's crazy too? Like, the Jets are just a bad team. If you watch that game, the officials did them a massive favor. They literally ran out of bounds on the third down play before the punt to give the Raiders back the football. Their running back was tackled out of bounds, and the officials rolled the clock. They should have stopped the clock. The Raiders shouldn't have had to allow 40 seconds to roll off the clock. They should have plenty more time. The Jets are so incompetent. It's amazing. It's amazing the officials bailed them out there. They shouldn't have had any time rolling off the clock there. Literally, the Raiders could have gotten the football back with like 50 seconds after turning it over with a minute and 13 seconds left. Like, it's stupid how the Jets are just incompetent. The entire organization is incompetent. Thank you for the super chat, Kevin, the PRF. Got a super chat here from Silver V. My man, Silver Villain. Thank you for the super chat. Silver V writes, shaking my head at analysis through around the label of great coaches shouldn't be reserved for Hall of Famers like Reed, Tomlin, Belichick, Sean Payton, Pete Carroll. To say Arians and Vrabel and Shanahan and Harbaugh is on that level is just blasphemy. Nah, I don't think any of those guys that you just mentioned are on that level. Now, I think with time, a guy like now you're talking. I'm assuming you're talking about Kyle Shanahan, not Mike Shanahan. I don't even know if Mike Shanahan himself, he's a 2-time winning Super Bowl coach. Hard to keep guys with that kind of a resume out. But I think you're talking about Kyle, not Mike. I don't think any of those guys are in the conversation. Now, John Harbaugh, I think, is interesting because he's won a Super Bowl and he is consistently in the postseason. He's done magnificent things with the Ravens organization, and he's not done yet. So I look at Harbaugh, and as out of this group, Harbaugh is the one, John Harbaugh that is the one that I say he's working his way towards being a guy that will be mentioned in the same vein with a Tomlin and a Payton and a Carroll, but he's not there yet. I think you're right about Arians, Vrabel, Shanahan, and Harbaugh all being on that next tier down. I don't think they're anywhere near Reed, Tomlin, Belichick, Payton, and Carroll. And it's amazing because it's a funny how the narrative changes so quickly in this league. Last year we were talking about, is Mike Tomlin going to get fired in Pittsburgh? And I thought that was one of his best coaching jobs, to be honest with you, to deal with what he had to deal with injury-wise last year. For those Steelers to even be in the playoff picture, and remember, with 2 games left, they were 8-6, and they were in the playoffs. And then they lost their last 2 games and fell out of the playoffs. So, I thought it was crazy to even hear Tomlin's name mentioned with potentially being elsewhere. But I'm with you. Reed, Tomlin, Belichick, Payton, and Carroll are among the elites in the league right now in terms of coaching. And it's not coincidental that every one of these guys, with the exception of Reed, have been with the team that they've been with for over a decade. Pete Carroll in Seattle, Sean Payton in New Orleans, Belichick in New England, Tomlin in Pittsburgh. These are all some of your longest tenured coaches in their respective franchises. Harbaugh is on that list as well. Another guy that's been with his franchise for over a decade. Reed not at that point yet, but what Reed is going to do in Kansas City, I think, is going to change the game, and I think he's already stamped his ticket to Canton with the Super Bowl win. Now he's just continuing to stockpile. I think I saw some crazy stat about road victories or something like that. Andy Reid is insane. All these coaches, as you mentioned, are Hall of Fame coaches when they're done. And I think Arians, Vrabel, Shanahan, and Harbaugh aren't there yet. I think Harbaugh of that second group, however, is the guy that I would say he's the closest to adding his name to that group up above. But Vrabel and Shanahan, no way. Those guys, they're newbies to the game. They're not even close. So thank you for that super chat. We'll get back to the breakdown of these games as we continue slate skating. Jags, Vikings, again, ugly football game. Vikings get the win. They don't care how it comes. They're now 6-6. They're not a playoff team. I don't think they're going to make it to the postseason. Let's look at their schedule real quick. They've got the Buccaneers next. They could win that game. They'll probably lose that game. They got the Bears after that. They should win that game. They could lose that game. And then they've got the Saints after that. I said this from the beginning of the season, 8-8. Now, 8-8 looked a little sketchy after the 0-4 start, but or was it 0-5? Might have been I think it was 0-4. Let's see. Loss. Nope. They started the season off 0-3. They won against the Texans in week 4. Loss, and so they were 1-5 before they turned things around. But they started the season off 0-3. And look, I said 8-8 before the season started. Looking at their schedule, Saints, Bucks, 2 losses right there. To me, they'll get to 8-8 if they can beat the Bears. I think they'll beat the Lions in week 17. Is 8-8 going to be good enough for that final wild card in the NFC? Let's take a look at what you're looking at right now in the AF and in the NFC. You got Arizona at 6-6, San Francisco at 5-6, the Giants at 5-7, Detroit and Chicago at 5-7. Washington could add their name to the list of 5-7 teams today with the win. So it's really competitive there, but I just don't see Minnesota staving off Arizona. I think Arizona's the better team. Let's take a look at Arizona's schedule down the stretch. They've got the Giants. That's not an easy win on the road. They've got the Eagles after that, 49ers and Rams. I think they can win 3 out of their final 4, but they're going to have to play much better than they did and have been playing of late. We'll talk about them here in a second. But anyhow, Kirk Cousins, I thought he had a really solid game. They gave it to Dalvin Cook 32 times in this game against the Jaguars. 120 yards for Dalvin Cook. Not the best average day for him, but like I said, this offense is very capable. Justin Jefferson and Adam Thielen, both over 100 yards in this game, both with a touchdown grab in this game. The Vikings offensively are a problem. They really are. I mean, when you look at this offense, or Thielen didn't have 100 yards. He had 8 for 75, but he did have a touchdown. Jefferson, 9 for 121 and a touchdown and a sick route to get open on his touchdown grab. But this offense, they can go with anybody. You know, when you're talking Cook, Jefferson, Thielen, and Rudolph at the tight end position, this is a dangerous offense. The defense is what scares me with Minnesota, and they were able to get away. I told you Jacksonville's been highly competitive. I know a lot of people, the Jaguars are taking. They've been trying their asses off to win. They just can't find ways to win. Now, the only thing that I say that leads me to believe that they might actually be, I think they might actually be tanking a little worse than the Jets, if you wanted to consider that. I don't think either of these teams are tanking. I don't think there's a such thing in the NFL as tanking, because the player, it's different in this league than any other league, because you've got to put good tape out there if you want to keep working in this league. So you can't afford to tank. The team, the organization, the ownership may be like, man, I hope we lose. They're not going to go down to the coach and say, hey, make sure we lose this game, because the players aren't going to abide by that. The players aren't going to stand for that. They're out there trying to play their best because, again, you want to stick around in this league. You might not be around when the next coaching staff comes in, but you want to put enough tape out there, enough good tape, that someone else thinks highly enough of you to give you a shot. So that's why it's impossible to tank. But when I look at the Jaguars, just put Gardner Minshew in. If you really want to win, put Gardner Minshew in. The fact that he's healthy and they're playing everybody but Gardner Minshew tells me that they really don't want to win. That's what that says to me. If you really want to look at a team potentially tanking, it's Jacksonville. Because the guy that gives them the best chance to win is sitting on the bench. Mike Glennon isn't going to give you a better chance to win than Gardner Minshew. Jake Luton isn't going to give you a better chance of winning than Gardner Minshew. So if anybody wanted to convince me that a team was tanking, I'd say it's Jacksonville. But they're not trying to lose. They're just not good. And now it's 11 straight losses for the Jaguars after winning in week 1. Remember, we were like, oh my God, Jacksonville won. Maybe they're going to be better than we thought. No, they're not. Okay. They lose the game, and Vikings get it in overtime, 27-24. They're now 6-6. And if the playoffs started today, Minnesota, after the 1-5 start, winners of 5 out of their last 6, would be in the postseason. That's amazing to me, but that also speaks volumes to the ineptness of the back end of the NFC conference. Hell, they're 1 game behind Tampa, and they play them next week. Isn't that crazy? Tampa's 7-5. Anyway, Raiders Jets. I led off the show talking about Gregg Williams and alluding to this game multiple times. Raiders get the win 31-28. It was a controversial finish, not because of anything that happened, from a referee or officiating standpoint, but just a play call by Gregg Williams. We've talked about that already. But when you watch this game, first of all, Darren Waller, my God. Darren Waller was an untamed beast in this game. All right, so he had 100 yards receiving at halftime. He ended up with 13 receptions, 200 yards, and 2 touchdowns. They had absolutely no answer for Darren Waller. He could do no wrong, and honestly, he did whatever the hell he wanted to do in this football game. They were without Josh Jacobs. We've been talking about how good Devontae Booker has been. He really wasn't all that great today, but you got to give some of that credit to the Jets defense. What I was more disappointed in the Raiders about was their run defense in this game. I thought their run defense was abysmal. Matter of fact, let's look at how bad it was. First of all, a rookie, Ty Johnson, out of Maryland, rushed for, I think he's actually a second-year guy now, is Ty Johnson. He rushed for over 100 yards, 22 carries for 104 yards. Josh Adams, the Notre Dame product, 8 rushes, 74 yards. Sam Darnold, 3 rushes, 26 yards. All of this equals up to 34 rushes for 206 yards, 6 yards a pop for the Jets on the ground. So they were destroying the Raiders on the ground. You can't win in this league with a rush defense that's leaking like that. That's a leaky rush D. It might have just been an off day for them, but we've seen the Raiders give it up this season, and so that was really disappointing. But they found a way to get it done. They had no business winning this football game, but they got it done 31-28. Also at the end of this game, how about that terrible squib kick by the Raiders kicker at the end of this game that gave the Jets a chance for a Hail Mary? Like, what are you guys doing, man? Kick the football deep enough so that they don't have a chance. It's 6 seconds. They shouldn't have a chance at a Hail Mary. What are you doing? So both of these teams, man, like no one really wanted to win this game, but the Raiders somehow manufactured enough plays to win and avoid what would have been an epic disaster for the Raiders and for the Jets. 0-12. They're not going to win a game. This was the one to get. And they failed to do so. You know what, though? What I realized, and his numbers weren't gaudy in this game. 14 of 23, 186, 2 touchdowns, 1 INT for Sam Darnold. Sam Darnold can play football, man. Like, somebody's got to go rescue that man. And he won't be there after this year. I wouldn't mind if my team went and got Sam Darnold. I wouldn't. I like Sam Darnold. There's something there to him. He's had some injuries. I'd like to see him stay healthy, but there's something there with Sam Darnold. I like him. He can play football. Somebody's got to give him a chance to grow and nurture him properly. He got no love in New York with this Jets football team. Raiders are now 7-5 and remain very alive in the playoff race in the AFC. Colts, Texans, 26-20 Colts victory. This one could have gone either way. I do have a super chat. I want to take this one real quick before I move forward. From John Perez, my man JP, thank you for the super chat. Greatly appreciate you. JP writes, if Washington got a chance to pick either of the Bama receivers, Devontae Smith or Jalen Waddle, which one should they take? Well, it's not even close. You take Devontae Smith. He's the more complete, more well-rounded wide receiver. He'd be the perfect complement to Terry in the offense, but I don't think they're going to be in a position to draft him. I think he's going to come off the board relatively high. But then again, I thought the Alabama receivers last year, or in particular Jerry Jeudy, was going to come off the board higher than they did, and they didn't. So he didn't in particular, but Ruggs did. So we'll see. A guy like Devontae Smith, if Washington doesn't win the division, and it doesn't look very promising right now, but that could change after today's result. They could be in a position, you don't win the division, more likely than not, not more likely than not, you're probably drafting in the top 15. You're not, I don't think Washington, I expect them to finish this season off strong. I think they're going to finish at 7-9, which might not be good enough anymore. I thought it would be, but the Giants went and did something I didn't think they were going to do. So if you finish 7-9, that's going to put you somewhere in that, 14-15 range, 13, 14, 15, somewhere in there. Maybe a guy like Devontae Smith is available. I don't know if that's the direction Washington wants to go or not. They have more pressing needs than wide receiver. So I don't think that's what they would be looking to do, but you want to get value. Maybe that's the best value at that pick. We would see. But for me, it'd be Devontae Smith all day long, all day strong. Thank you for the super chat, John Perez. So Indy at Houston, 26-20 win for the Colts. The Colts looked like they were going to run away with this one. They were up 21-10. They had the Texans right where they wanted them, and they just failed to put them away. And there was a really pivotal stretch. Talked about this last night on Overtime. It was brought up by a Colts fan, and I said I was going to save it for today, but he brought it up yesterday, so I talked about it yesterday, but I'm going to reiterate it here. I'm not a massive fan. Frank Wright, first of all, is a hell of a football coach. I like him much more than I like Doug Peterson, but he comes from the same coaching tree as Doug Peterson. Those two are two peas in a pod. They are cut from the same cloth. They believe in the same philosophies. They want to be aggressive at all costs. They throw caution to the wind. They go for two when they don't need to. They bypass field goal attempts to go for it on fourth down. I can't tell you how many times, I remember the Baltimore game. It's 4th and 2. You're down 11. A field goal cuts it to a one-score game, and he goes for it. They don't get it, and they ultimately lose the game by 14. I'm like, what are you doing? Kick the damn field goal, dude. What are you doing? We saw Doug Peterson do the exact same thing a couple of weeks ago. You're down 2 scores to Seattle. You need the field goal. Kick the damn field goal. He goes for it. They don't get what are you doing, dude? Some of the things they do just don't make sense. Another example of it in this game. All right. Colts are up 24-20. You're getting to that crucial portion of the game right around 5-6 minutes, maybe even 4 minutes left in the game. You get this first down, and more likely than not, you're going to win the football game because you're going to be able to ice the clock. You're going to force the Texans to use their timeouts, and they may not see the football again. And I understand the thought process there, but it's not worth it. You know what I've come to the realization of with coaches like Frank Wright and Doug Peterson is that they don't weigh the pros and cons. They only think of the positives. They don't think of the negatives of their decision making. They don't think of, well, what is this going to do? You see, in analytics, they weigh out the pros and cons, and they do it based off of a percentage. And what is the percentage chance of you winning if you get this first down versus you kicking a field goal? And if it's not that big of a difference, you go for it. But at least in analytics, they weigh the pros and cons, and they give you, and it spits out a number. I don't think Doug Peterson and Frank Wright think about the consequences that come from their decision making. I think they just think about, well, what happens if I get it? I get 2 more points, or I get a new fresh set of downs, and I might be able to run the clock out and win the game. But what happens if you don't, guy? If you don't get this, you could lose the game on a touchdown. Don't put yourself in a position where a touchdown beats you ever. Ever. When you got a chance to push the lead out to 7, you're up 4. It's Deshaun Watson on the other sideline. Kick the damn field goal. Go up by 7. And worse, if you think your team is better, an extra frame will prove itself out and you'll win the game. Don't put yourself in a position where you can get beat with a touchdown. And that's what happened. They went for it on 4th down when they should have kicked the field goal. They did not get it. Instead, it was 24-20. They get the safety on the ensuing possession because they had the Texans pinned down there deep because they were close to the end zone. They sack him. All right, a big play by Justin Houston in the end zone to sack Deshaun Watson. They're up 26-20. You're thinking, hey, they're going to get great field position, and they did, but they didn't do, anything with it. And instead of them getting in the field goal range to put the game away or get a couple of first downs to put the game away, they didn't. They had to punt it to Deshaun Watson, and he took them right down the field, as you knew he would. And they got all the way down inside the 10-yard line, and the Colts had just used their final timeout, and this thing was looking really ugly for them. And if they score this touchdown, Colts are in trouble. And had they run it one more time, 8 up 40 seconds, and then scored, the game was over. But as I mentioned already yesterday, bad snap from Martin. Deshaun Watson couldn't handle it. He tried to pick it up. He fumbled it. Tried to fall on it. Grover Stewart hit him as he was trying to recover it. Ball squirts out. It's recovered by the Colts, and they hold on 26-20. Coaches like Frank Reich don't learn until one of their decisions backfires and absolutely guts you. He's had some decisions that he's made, like the one in overtime. I want to say it was a couple of years ago where they lose the football game because instead of playing for the tie, I want to play for the win. Bro, you weren't going to win the game. Just punt the football and take the tie. He decided to go for it. They end up losing the game to the Texans. Until these decisions cost you ball games, you're going to keep doing it. And so he got away with it, and nobody's really going to question him on it, but that's stupid football. That doesn't make any sense. They won the game 26-20, but I don't like the decision-making process of Frank Reich. I think it's ultimately going to cost this team down the road. We saw many times they went for it against the Titans. It worked out for him in that game, but he's got to be a little bit more, understanding of the situational football, know how the game is going, and put your team in the best position to win. I don't think he does that enough. But they get the win. They're 8-4, and they're tied atop the AFC South with the win. Deshaun Watson and the Texans dropped to 4-8. And oh, by the way, Brandon Cooks, a concussion. He's getting to that point now where you're saying, hey, bro, you can't afford too many more of these. Who's he going to throw the football to again? You should have saw the receivers that were out there that he was throwing the football to. It's amazing that they were even in the ball game to begin with. Watson says he's sick of it. He's tired of losing. It's rough, man, because I don't see it getting any better anytime soon. We'll see what they do this offseason with their GM situation and their brand new head coach. Rams and Cardinals, NFC West family business. This went exactly the way that I thought it was going to go. Rams were dominant in this game, 38-28. They got after Kyler Murray. They forced, I think, a couple of turnovers of Kyler Murray. Let me make sure of that. Yes, they forced a fumble of Murray, and they forced an interception of Murray. They were all over him, as I expected them to be. I thought Jared Goff was outstanding. I don't think he gets enough credit for what he does for that offense. People just love to overlook Jared Goff, but when he plays like this, it's not the offense, it's the Goffense. And the Goffense was in full effect. 37 of 47 for 351 and a touchdown. You got to respect what Jared Goff is doing, okay? On the season, Jared Goff's numbers look like this. And again, he doesn't get enough credit. And these numbers aren't tremendous, but they're good enough to help this team be in first place. He's 17 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, 3,372 yards on the season. Completion percentage up over 68% this year. He's been stellar, man. I think he is a really good quarterback. He can be flustered when he gets under duress, but if you protect him, he can light you up. And we've seen that in the past. We saw it in 2018. You're seeing it again here. I thought the run game for the Rams in this game was outstanding. Let's take a look at their run game. Henderson had a big touchdown run, which was really the backbreaker in this game that bust this thing open. He had a 38-yard touchdown run. He had 3 carries, 49 yards. Cam Akers is starting to really assume the role. They're giving him a chance to prove he belongs. He had a tough touchdown run in this game. 21 carries, 72 yards. Doesn't blow you away, but he was solid. Tough yards. Continued to churn out yards, get first downs. This is just a really good Rams team overall. Just really solid. Rock solid. Offensively, they don't really scare you, but they got enough weapons. Tyler Higbee at the tight end position along with Gerald Everett. We know about Cooper Kupp. We know about Robert Woods. I think that Reynolds has been really good this year. There's just a lot of things that this team is really good at. And the defense, we know, one of the best in the league. They picked Murray off today. Picked 6, as a matter of fact. Took it back to the crib against Murray in this game. This Rams team is dangerous. Dangerous because they can play defense. Dangerous because in any given game, they can explode on you offensively like they did in this game. I still think that Seattle's the best team in this division, but tell that to the Rams, who already beat Seattle, who owns Seattle. Tell that to the Rams. Arizona, a little concerning, 2 in a row. This is what they do. They're going to bounce back next week against the Giants because this has been the trend this season. Play 2 really good games. You get high on Arizona supply, then they let you down 2 games in a row. Remember that stretch early in the season, home against Detroit, on the road against Carolina, 2 stinkers in a row. Then they bounce back with 2 impressive performances against the Jets and somebody else, and you're like, oh, here they go. Here come the Cardinals, and now 2 stinkers in a row against the Patriots, and now the Rams, and they're gonna bounce back next week against the Giants. And you're gonna be like, man, this Arizona Cardinals team is dangerous. We'll see. But there's now 6-6 on the season. Rams now first place at 8-4 with the win, on the tiebreaker so far over the Seahawks, who are also 8-4. Why are they 8-4? Because of the 17-12 upset loss at home at the hands of the New York Football Giants. What a game this was. If you like hard-hitting, physical, smash mouth football, this was the game for you. The Giants defensively got after Russell Wilson. I thought Russell Wilson looked flustered, and I don't say that very often. I thought he looked flustered against the Rams a couple of weeks ago. I thought he looked flustered against the Bills. And let me just say this. This is not a scorching hot take. This is a lukewarm take from me, but it's my lukewarm take. Russell Wilson is no longer a front runner, and I don't even think he's even in the top 3 discussion for MVP. This loss to me knocks him out of that ranking, knocks him out of that consideration. I think Mahomes, I think Rodgers, I'll even put Josh Allen ahead of him in the MVP ranking this year. I'd put Dalvin Cook, if he continues doing, I'd put a lot of guys ahead of him right now. He hasn't been great this last month. And this loss, you can't have this loss. Not with Colt McCoy at quarterback. I don't give a shit how good the Giants are playing defensively. He missed open receivers in this game. Guys were running open. He didn't see them. He took sacks. He was bad in this game. Let's call a spade a spade. Let's not sugarcoat. Russell Wilson was bad. 27 of 43 for 263, 1 interception, 1 touchdown. He was bad in this game. I was not impressed with Russell Wilson in this game. I know he can play better. I thought he missed some opportunities. I saw guys open that he didn't see, and he instead ran into sacks. He wasn't the playmaker that I'm used to seeing. We started to really get high on this Seahawks defense after the performance against the Rams, and then follow that up with the performance against both the Cardinals and the Eagles. And we fell into the trap of thinking, hey, this Seahawks defense, they're coming along. If they can continue this. And they weren't terrible, but you're playing Colt McCoy. The one thing you can't do is give it up on the ground. I'm going to go out on a limb, and this may not be that small of a limb. I think this isn't a flimsy branch I'm going out on here. All right, I think it's pretty sturdy, actually. If you don't give up running yards in this game, if you don't give up the rush yards, in the big explosive plays. I don't think the Giants score any points in this game. I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, it was 5-0. 5-0 when Wayne Gallman broke off the 60-yard run that set up the first score of the game for the Giants. And honestly, all of their points came off of big runs that set them up. Colt McCoy did some good things when he was called upon and asked to do so. But I don't know if they score any points, but you couldn't stop the run. Wayne Gallman, 16 carries, $135. Are you out of your damn mind? With Colt McCoy at quarterback? You're going to let that happen? You deserve to lose. You deserve to lose. And Alfred Morris wasn't terrible in this game. What did Alfred Morris end up with? 8 for 39, so he was damn near 5 a pop himself. 31 carries, $90? You think you're going to beat somebody doing that shit with Colt McCoy at quarterback? Go sit your ass down somewhere. You deserve to lose the goddamn game. 6 yards per pop. With Colt McCoy at quarterback. You should have been 9 guys in the box. Dare them to beat you. Unbelievable. I was blown away by the Giants' performance in this game. They sacked Russell Wilson 5 times in this game. He didn't know where they were coming from. You know, and we talk about Jamal Adams and all the things that he was fantastic in this game with Jamal Adams. He was everywhere. But how about this Giants defense? All right. Their defensive coordinator, Graham, this guy deserves a ton of credit, man. I don't think enough people are giving this guy his just due because he's done it with a bunch of different players. Guys are out of the lineup that they were expecting, like O'Shane Zimenez and all these other guys that have gotten hurt. The other linebacker from Georgia that was playing good this season, he gets hurt. So who steps up? Tay Crowder's in there, and Coughlin, Carter Coughlin out of Minnesota as a 7th round pick. All of these guys that you never heard of, they're stepping up, making plays for this football team. You know, who's the guy that recovered the fumble? Like, Russell Wilson was flustered in this game. He fumbled a snap. He's throwing interceptions. Now, the interception, it tipped off of a guy's hand. I don't care. You know, drop pass. The entire team, I don't want to just put it on, the entire team looked scared, looked flustered a bit. I don't think they expected this kind of effort from the Giants. And once they realized they were in a dogfight, I don't think they responded well. This didn't look like a championship team. Their championship medal got tested and they folded. And I thought, and I said this yesterday, I'm going to say this and we're going to get out of here. The turning play, recover that fumble, that punt, blocked punt in the end zone for a touchdown. And you win this game. That was a knockout blow. When you muff that thing and find a way to be out of bounds when you recovered it, and that instead turned into a safety, instead of a 10-0 lead, it was 5-0, you effed up. Because you gave all the Giants all the confidence they needed in this football game. What an effort by the damn Giants. Unbelievable. I couldn't believe what I was watching. As that thing got into the fourth quarter and the Giants are up double figures at 17-5, I'm sitting there befuddled like they're really going to win this game. They're really going, and I kept waiting for Seattle to dial up something for DK to get, and I'm going to say this too, and I promise I'm getting out of here on this one. The best free agent acquisition of 2020 goes to the New York Giants for their acquisition of cornerback James Bradbury. He's playing like an all-pro this year. All-pro. I lied. One more thing. Leonard Williams, 3 sacks in this game. They could not block Leonard Williams. Game on the line, 3rd and 10, and he gets a sack for 8 yards and forces a 4th and 18. They didn't have an answer for Leonard Williams. He's been spectacular. Giants 5-7, and even if they don't win the division, the Giants could qualify for the playoffs with a wild card. Let that sink in. They're playing good football. 4 straight now for the Giants, man. Don't look now. These boys are coming. Eagles, Packers, Aaron Rodgers. What more can I say? He continues this MVP assault on the rest of the league. 25 of 34 for 295 and 3 touchdowns. Devontae Adams catches 2 of those touchdowns. I still don't understand how teams allow this to happen. Now, the Eagles and their defensive coordinator are a little bit more cocky because no matter how bad Darius Slay is getting roasted and filleted, his defensive coordinator is going to continue to leave him out there like he did against DK Metcalf. And he claims that allows the Eagles to play their defense when Darius Slay is able to take away the other team's best receiver. But that's the problem. He's not taking that guy away. That guy is roasting his ass. Devontae Adams, 10 catches, 121 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Like, you can't allow this kind of assault to take place. All right, guys should be arrested when they do these types of things to Darius Slay, and the defensive coordinator should be arrested as well, Jim Schwartz, because he continues to allow this to happen to Darius Slay week after week. But the Green Bay Packers, they're a good football team. Aaron Jones, the big run at the end to put this thing away when it seemed like the Eagles were going to try to make a game of it. 15 carries, $130, and a touchdown for him. But the real story here, the Packers win. They're now 9-3. They're 1 game behind New Orleans. Yeah. No one wants to talk about that. Okay, we want to talk about the dysfunctional stuff. Eagles here are now 3-8-1, but Carson Wentz gets benched midway through the fourth quarter. In comes Jalen Hurts, leads a touchdown drive, cuts the lead to 23-10. They get a stop, and the Packers punt, and Jalen Reagor, the rookie out of TCU, returns a punt for like 70 yards for a touchdown. And just like that, it's 23-16. And the Packers go 3 and out again. Hurts gets the football back, and we're like, wow, he's got a chance to really, really cement himself here. And potentially in Eagles lore for this comeback if he can stage it. And he's got a chance to really cement himself as the starter next week against New Orleans. He throws an interception. Look, he's a young guy. You expect that kind of thing. They don't get it done on that possession. They punt. You get the big run from Aaron Jones to push this thing out to the final score, which is ultimately 30-16. And then he throws the interception. But 5 of 12, 109 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. He also used his legs. Let's see how many rushing yards he had, because he had a couple of good runs, which is what you expect from him. 5 rushes, 29 yards. So, look, the offense looked smoother when he came in. I get it. Garbage time, fourth quarter. Packers feel like they've got the game in hand. But I think Doug Peterson has a tough decision on his hands. And I think when it's all said and done, the TD that he's going to make is that he's gonna go to Jalen Hurts. And you know what's funny? I was listening to Eagles fans saying, "Why did they put Hurts in for just 2 plays against the Seahawks?" I said, "You don't see what he's doing here? You don't see it? You don't know what he's doing? He's doing the old Colin Kaepernick trick. You remember what he did? When Alex Smith was playing good ball, Kaepernick would come in for 2 or 3 plays. He'd come in for a possession. They had their Colin Kaepernick package. He'd come in and run some plays just to get acclimated, to get comfortable, adjust to the speed of the game. And then when the door finally came open, that door finally came open with Alex Smith getting a concussion. In came Kaepernick, and that was all she wrote. He's getting Jalen Hurts' feet wet, getting his feet wet for when that opportunity finally comes. And Hurts is going to have an opportunity, and Wentz may not get his job back. It's amazing how this thing has transpired. I still think that Wentz is going to start on Sunday next week in Week 14 versus Saints. I still think it's Wentz's job, but I think you're going to see a lot more Jalen Hurts. And if Wentz struggles, this could be his last start of the season. I'll say that. But I think Wentz is going to get the start one more time against New Orleans. He's going to get one more opportunity to prove that he is the guy. This season, at least. I don't think they're going to just make a definitive decision. Oh, Hurts is the guy next year. There'll be a competition next year. If this thing ends with Hurts starting the final 3 games of the season, because I don't think he's going to start against the New Orleans Saints. I think it's going to be Wentz that gets to start. But let's say Wentz continues to be mediocre and they go with Hurts the second half of that game. Let's say Wentz is mediocre. He's marginal at best. And at halftime, Peterson decides to go to Hurts. He'll start the final 3 games if he stays healthy. And then I think you got a quarterback competition next offseason. But in any event, Packers win the game 30-16. They're 9-3, 1 game back of the New Orleans Saints for the best record in the NFC. Meanwhile, the Eagles are 3-8-1, and for all intents and purposes, with that Giants win, they're dead. Patriots Chargers, not much to say about this game. 45-0. Man, oh man, was this brutal if you're a Chargers fan. I can't remember a loss this lopsided. And as I said yesterday, there's no excuse for this. This Patriots team isn't the Patriots team that's supposed to be able to do this to you. But they did it in all facets. 2 special teams touchdowns for the Patriots. Listen to Cam Newton's stat line. 12 for 19 for 69 yards and a touchdown. Does that sound like the quarterback of a 45-point outburst? Like, this shit is ridiculous, man. The fact that the Patriots could do this, again, I talked about this yesterday, championship medal, okay? The Seahawks lack it. The Patriots don't. And you can change some of the players, but you can't change the mindset. Belichick's going to have these boys prepared, and they're gonna do anything in their power to try to win a game. And they don't care how it looks. 13-10, 45-0. That Ravens game was just as ugly in a monsoon. They don't care how it looks. They just want the win. That win against the Cardinals last week, the win against the Jets on a Monday night, ugly. They don't care. They just want them. And that's all that matters in this league. This was dominant, though. This was almost unwatchable. I stopped watching this game midway through the third. Like, I can't watch any more of this shit. This is embarrassing. And I'm not a Chargers fan. Anthony Lynn's going to survive the season, but he will not survive the offseason. I think he's gone after this season, and it's unfortunate because I like Anthony Lynn or not, but their special teams has been an embarrassment. I tweeted that out during the game. You give up the punt return to Gunnar Olszewski. You also give up the field goal block for a touchdown right before the half, and then your kicker, who's missed 9 kicks this year, now 10, after the blocked field goal, misses a field goal early in the game that would have put you on the scoreboard. This team's a mess. Justin Herbert had his worst game of his career, 26 of 53, 209 and 2 interceptions. He looked bad in this game, and but then again, he wasn't by himself. Everybody looked bad in this football game as the Patriots get their most lopsided victory in the Bill Belichick era, 45-0 over. Man, it's nothing worse than getting a 40 burger and blanked at the same time. 6-6 are the Patriots. They're not dead, but they're not going to the postseason. If they were in the NFC, they'd be very, very alive. As a matter of fact, they'd be in the playoffs right now. But in the AFC, where you're looking at a bunch of 8 and 4s and 7 and 5s, I don't think they're gonna. Let's look at the Patriots schedule real quick before I write them off. Rams, that's a loss. Dolphins, that could be a loss. They could win that game. Bills, that's a loss. And the Jets, they could go 8-8. I don't think 8-8 is good enough. They could even go 9-7. They're not winning their final 4 games. I don't know if 9-7 is good enough. I still think that the Ravens are going to run the table. So I just don't see them getting it. And the Browns aren't going away. I've come to that conclusion after Sunday's outcome. They're not going away. So just know this. Never disrespect a Bill Belichick coach team. Period. Done. Broncos, Chiefs. We talked about that last night, so I don't really need to harp on that. Chiefs got it done. We talked about that on the overtime program. They're 11-1. They stay right on the heels of the Steelers, waiting for a slip up. Maybe that slip up comes today. We'll see. But they get it done. It wasn't pretty, but it was gritty, and it was a dub. It was AFC West family business. You know how the family does it. They took care of business. They're 11-1. Broncos fall to 4-8 on the season. So with that, let's wrap up the show with garbage time. We got 2 Monday nighters. I'm going to quickly gloss over the first one because I'm going to do a lot of that on my next show here in a second. But Washington at Pittsburgh, 11-0 Steelers taking on the 4-7 Washington football team. It's a massive game for both teams involved. As I just mentioned, the Chiefs are right there breathing on the necks of the Steelers, so they can't afford to slip up, especially to the likes of a 4-7 Washington team that is surging 2 wins in a row, playing confident football, coming off of a long layoff off of Thanksgiving. So they feel good. They're healthy. They're confident. We'll see if it carries over into this game. I've already given my prediction for the game. I think the Steelers are going to be too much for Washington. I think the quick passing game of Ben Roethlisberger and the ability of that defense to get after Alex Smith and force some turnovers is going to be too much for Washington to overcome. But we'll see what happens in that football game. I think Washington will be game and very competitive in that football game. The nightcap, Bills at 49ers. I think that the Bills are a really good football team. I don't think they're getting enough credit for what they've done this season. They're 8-3, and they might be the quietest 8-3 team. I think people still don't believe in the Buffalo Bills this season. Just like I don't think a lot of people believed in, specific teams like the Browns, for instance, coming into this week. I know I can't speak for you guys. I didn't. They made me a believer on Sunday. I think a lot of people are waiting for the shoe to drop with this Bills football team. I myself, though, think that this Bills team is among the best in the AFC. And if not for Hail Mary, Hail Murray, they're 9-2 right now with a chance to get to 10-2 and be right within striking distance of the number one seed in the AFC playoffs. But instead, they are 8-3 with a chance to get to 9-3. And they're right there, in terms of the division with the Dolphins, who are breathing down their necks. They can't afford a loss here to a 49ers team that just refuses to go away. I talk about championship mettle. How about the 49ers continuing to show championship mettle with all the cards that they've been dealt? If we're playing spades, they got a bunch of low clubs and low diamonds and hearts in their hands. They got no spades, and yet they come out and find a way to get 3 books out of a hand that should get none. And so it's amazing what Kyle Shanahan is doing, but I think the buck stops here. I think this is the thing, the Bills are not great defensively, and they have issues stopping the run, which scares me a bit because nobody runs it better than Kyle Shanahan in this league. However, I don't think defensively they're going to be able to stop this Bills offense, and I think you're going to get a couple of turnovers from Nick Mullins, and I think the Bills are going to win this football game comfortably. I've got them winning this game 30-13. I think it's going to be closer than that score indicates. I think you're going to be looking at a 20-13 lead heading into the fourth, and I think the Bills will score 10 unanswered in the fourth to put this thing on ice and win that thing going away 30-13. So that's my prediction for Monday Night Football, both games. We'll see what happens. Looking forward to chopping it up with you guys at the conclusion of both of those games. Told you going to be a very intense and very busy day here on the Louie Tee Network, but I wouldn't have it any other way. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Subscribe to the Louie Tee Network for more great content. If you haven't already done so, go ahead, hit that subscribe button, turn on that notification bell, and hit that like button, okay? Don't want to miss anything. I'm going to be live pretty much all day long, all day strong, so make sure you turn on all of those things that I just asked you to turn on. Hit that notification bell, all right? But you got to hit the subscribe button first if you haven't already hit that. So smash that red button, all right, that says subscribe, then hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything, and then hit that like button to show your man Louie T some love. So quick turnaround for me. I'm going to jump on this Washington pregame stream, chop it up with the fellas, the family, and talk about this game, and then we'll watch it, and then we'll come back, and we'll break it all down, and then we'll watch Bills Niners, and then we'll come back and break it all down again here on the Louie Tee Network. You guys have a good one. Enjoy the football. We got a doubleheader today. Celebrate. Enjoy this football. Bask in it. We're in week 13. It's about to run out. So enjoy it while you still got it. You guys take care. Have a good one.